Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? It's 105 here in New York. I have a fan going because otherwise, and I am very sunburnt, so I had to take everything off. My legs appear to be worse. I had a yard sale yesterday, only sold 3 things. It's okay, I'm trying. Um, gonna do a video. I'm gonna make my way through it. We got a Oahspe. We're gonna continue on the Book of Aph, son of Jehovih. Before I begin, please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. They're messing with my numbers, by the way. Share because it's caring. And if you have it within you to help me continue my work, if you've ever gotten a mic drop, an epiphany, a connect the dot, please consider supporting my work and helping me with this move because I can't do jack shit. I have no side funds for a dumpster or a rental moving van. I got to do all the work myself. Get my muscles back. So anything is appreciated. And hopefully soon I won't have to ask anybody for anything anymore. This knowledge is free. So chapter 4. And I think the Lord's good book already ended. So I'll be reading, yeah. So I will be reading straight through. Chapter 4. Jehovih said, Aph, my son, put a wall of pillars of fire around about the land of Waga. Plant them near as a hedge is planted. For the false gods and false goddesses of Hada, when perceiving their habitation going down into the water, will endeavor to escape to Jud and Vohu and other countries. But thou shalt not suffer one to escape, for they have migrated to this division of the earth, because its sumptuous productions, the better to feast their evil desires. And thou shalt spread a net around the borders of Waga against the line of the ocean and to the high north mountains. And the net shall encompass the continent of Waga, and it shall be to the height of 1,000 miles and in breadth, so that no spirit of darkness can escape and find the way abroad. And when thou hast spread the net, thou shalt send the larger kingdoms in Hada, and to the false kingdoms a sufficient number of Etherians and great power, and thou shalt send down to the earth to Waga a sufficient number of Etherians, that every mortal man and mortal woman and every mortal child shall have 5 to a 10. And they that go to the mortals shall take with them birth blankets of sufficiency, for in time of destruction, when the mortals go down in death, thy servants shall receive the liberated spirits on the birth blankets and bear them to the atmospheric column of ascent. And hither shall they hosts receive them and provide them with food and clothes after the manner of Essenes. But it shall come to pass that many mothers shall perish in the waters with children in the womb, which live by fetal, as is proper in my sight, for so created I them. Therefore, to all such fetals give special care, for they are without sin. And when the mother is dead corporally, and the fetal also, bring hence their spirits, but together, and provide a volunteer angel of fetal power, and deliver the infant spirit to her to be nurtured until the proper time of weaning, and provide in the same place a home for the mother of the child, that she may inherit its love and mirth. When the voices cease, Aph, son of Jehovih, looked about over the host as if in search of a sign that the time had come. But again Jehovih spake, saying, In the misfortunes of a fallen world created I food for the warm love of my Ethereal goddesses. Behold them in hereabout in millions, every one in hope of receiving a prize of that which was lost in darkness, to raise up sons and daughters who shall rejoice in everlasting paradise. Think not that I gave the talent of love only to a mother for her child, and there the talent to end, for as the talent in its incipient age bindeth her soul to her child, so doth the same talent in my goddesses overspread a helpless world. Are they not as midwives and mothers to thousands and millions of souls being delivered for corporal bondage into everlasting light? And who can number them? Here there standeth 100,000,000 come from Lagos, 100,000,000 from Intopa, 200,000,000 from Karduk, 100,000,000 from Barak, 200,000,000 from Nin, 250,000,000 from Luftwig, 100,000,000 from Pid, 200,000,000 from Rag, 50,000,000 from Navis, 200,000,000 from Dakka, and 250,000,000 from Od. I speak in the Ethereal firmament, and they have answered me. Yeah, they come not as curiosity seekers and with empty arms, but behold them arrayed with their thousand and millions of small equipment suited to the newborn. What thing is there under the sun that they have not remembered to bring with them in some part for regimen or drapery to rejoice the souls of them that are to be cut off from the Kippur? Chapter 5. Jehovih said, Now will I bewail thee, O earth. The glories of thy heavens that are past and gone shall be a lesson to the gods. Thy place of hoard, once the place of the wisdom of my son Cynthians, uprise. Behold, it is measured and gone down, and Moab is no more. Yeshua is fallen. Where floated the plateau of many resurrections are now mirroring vampires and millions of souls that hear not and see not, but are forever burrowing deep in everlasting darkness. The plateau are broken up, the substance scattered and unorganized, nor is there a vestige left to show the glories, work of gods of the earth's past day. Hear me, O gods and goddesses, for in beholding these deep miseries, the soul is quickened to retain great wisdom. Thus created I man, out of darkness created I him, and my holy angels taught him to walk upright and gave him my commandments, that he might advance to eternal light. But because man obeyed not the commandments of my God and Lords, he fell. Nevertheless, a few obeyed the commandments and fell not, rising up heirs for the glory of my heavens above. Of such I have made an example on all corporal worlds I created, for those that fell not became exemplars before the fallen, for having faith in me and my works, and question not my wisdom and justice. But of those that fell, this is the history. They first questioned my person, next my wisdom, next my justice, next my power, and after that proclaimed the folly of God and his lords, whereupon they usurped to themselves to say, There is nothing higher than man, and they said of themselves, I am the highest. Hear my voice, O ye gods and goddesses, for as out of contrary wind I gave a mortal sea captain a wholesome lesson, or as out of a severe winter I gave a corporal farmer a lesson in providing for his household, even so on the brink of a wicked world give I ye a lesson on the management of my kingdoms. For from this time forth the earth shall not fall, nor her heavens above her, wherein then shall not my gods rule over her wisdom and power. Since many angels assumed they were the all highest, they put aside the commandments, one of which was to suffer not the spirits of newly dead to return and dwell with their mortal kindred. For they, not knowing of the higher heavens, will teach falsely of Jehovih and his everlasting kingdoms. And it came to pass that when one commandment was set aside, the others were also. And it followed that the spirits of the newly dead, who were without knowledge of heaven, led mortals in their own way. For they dwelt together and slept together in dreams and visions. Mortals judged themselves to be wise, not knowing that they were obsessed in sleep. And for the desires of flesh, they found acquaintances in spirit, having no higher God or Lord. And as one spirit returned and fastened itself on a mortal, so did another and another, till hundreds and thousands of spirits dwell in one corporeal body, often drive hence the natural spirit I gave in the time of conception. And these mortals knew it not, and they became void of direct purpose. Because of the confusion of soul, they were worthless on the earth. Jehovih further said, henceforth for a long season shall it be on earth that the spirits of the Assyrians shall not be suffered to return and dwell with mortals, but the earth shall be encompassed on all sides with walls of moon, and with shars, to bear away the spirits of the dead in the hour of death. But there shall come a time when mortals are capable of comprehending these matters, in which time their kindred spirits shall return at intervals from their holy labors in heaven, and see them and talk with them, and face to face. Chapter 6. And now Aph, son of Jehovih, said, when the Aetherian hosts were arranged in due order, I called out to thee, O Jehovih, saying, in thy strength and wisdom, O Father, join thou the heavens above and the earth below. And the end of the Aetherian column that extended in Shabbat on the border of the vortex of the earth was made fast by the pressure of thy wide heavens. Again I said, in thy strength and wisdom, O Jehovih, join thou the heavens above with the earth below. And the end of the Aetherian column, the extended down to the earth, was made fast around the borders of Waga, by the ocean and the high mountains on the north. Again I said, O Jehovah, deliver thou the earth from evil, for thou glory forever. And the vortex of the earth closed in from the extreme, and lo, the earth was broken. A mighty content was cut loose from its fastenings, and the fire of the earth came forth in flames and clouds with loud roaring, and the land rocked to and fro like a ship at sea. Again I said, O Jehovah, deliver thou thy heavens, which are bound as with a chain to a rotten carcass. And again the vortex of the earth closed in about on all sides, and by the pressure the land sank down beneath the water to rise no more. And the Corporeans went down to death, and the feudals and familiars gave up the battle. Neither had they whereon to stand, nor knew how to go to any place in all the heavens, but were lost in crying out for help. And my host hastened in all directions with their birth blankets, and received the Drujas and the feudals and Assyrians in millions and millions, and gathered them to the place of the fountain of light, whether I had provided atmosphere for them, and they were placed within, and their numbers were so great that even gods had scarce seen like before. And in order to attest before thee, O Jehovah, I had them numbered, using the sections of the divisions of my gods and goddesses in order to do so. And there were of Drujas and feudals 16,600 million, many of whom had lived on earth as feudals and Drujas for thousands of years, though many others of them were not capable of everlasting life. And of the first resurrection there were 36,000 million, and of the second resurrection there were 305 million. But before the last 100 years, the earth brought forth none capable of everlasting life, save indeed the remnants of Ihins. Now that the earth was delivered, and there was no escape for the spirits of the dead, nor no returning to mortals, I called out to thee, O Jehovah, saying, give me of thy power, O Jehovah, and I will carry up all the plateau of hell and the heavens of every continent. And thy hand came as the blade of a sword, flaming like fire, and swept over the ocean of the sunken land, cleaving all asunder. And lo and behold, the anchorage of my feet was cut loose, and the spheres of heaven at my command. Thy voice, O Jehovah, came to me, saying, descend thou, my sons, down to the floor of the resurrection, and take my daughter, But-Tisi, with thee, and go into the midst of the place of ascension, For I will add unto thy glory and resurrection of all that thine eyes have beholden. So I descended and took Tisi, daughter of Jehovih, with me, and when we were come into the place commanded, thy power came upon the place, and it started upward. And soon thereafter it turned up on its vertical axis and rose higher and higher, turning and rising, and we were loose from the earth, and no longer rotated with the earth, but rose slowly upward, watching the earth rotating beneath us. I said, Upward, O Jehovih, upward, O Jehovih, upward, O Jehovih, and all the hosts repeated the same words, for our wills and knowledge were as a unit, wherein had strength in thee, to our Creator. Chapter 7. Jehovah spake in the firmament, saying, Bring the newborn into the forest of Euclo, and Jahin roads to the ark of Noah, and the Etherian heaven of Hunt-on. And when thou hast found them on the world of their own, leave thou gods and goddesses with them, to sort them and provide according to their necessities, for all things shall be provided unto them, that they may obtain knowledge and individuality. And when thou hast placed them, hasten thou with my son Neph back to the earth, where I have labored with the ships of the Ihins, and they were thus delivered. So I departed as soon as possible, taking leave of Fratsiti, thanking her for her assistance in this great deliverance. And I took with me Neph, son of Jehovih, and other 30,000 gods and goddesses, besides 10 million Etherians, who had thousands of years' experience in heaven and on various corporeal worlds. And we came back to the earth, even to the ocean where the land had gone down. And when I came in to the ships in which the Ihins were escaped, finding the gods who had them in charge, even as I have previously commanded, thy voice, O Jehovah, came to me, saying, Bend thou the currents of the winds of heaven, O my son, and shape the ships, that they shall fall into groups. And thou shalt divide the groups, making 4 groups in all. And thou shalt drive the groups of ships before the winds of heaven, and bringing them into the 4 different lands of the earth, according to its previous history and adaptation. For in all countries shall my chosen begin the laying down of the foundation of my everlasting kingdom, and they shall never more be destroyed by the people of darkness, neither of the earth nor heaven. So I divided my hosts according to the labor thy commandments put upon me, making 4 divisions of them. And I said unto Nymph, Direct them, O God, to such countries as Jehovah has shown thee. For thou knowest all the earth, for remember, thou art still God of earth. I said, By the light Jehovah, I desire 2 ships to go to the northland, which was not sunken, for they shall be a testimony in time to come. Let thy gods therefore shift the winds, and drive 2 ships aside from the rest. And in the same time my messengers will go and lead the way to the northland, whither the gods shall shape the winds of heaven. Now those in charge of the wind currents divided the ships, and drove 2 of them off to the north land. And the gods and angels turned the currents about, and drove the 4 groups of ships in 4 different ways, according to the directions of God, son of Jehovah. And the messengers of God led the way, showing the gods and angels of the wind and the countries designed by Jehovah. So it came to pass that in 150 days' time all the ships of the faithless were in the ports, and the people went ashore in the different countries, whither they had been taken. Again thy voice of Jehovah came to me, saying, Behold, my people are few in the world, unless they take the ships and sail about, and so get divided and lost. Thou shalt send thy hosts down to the sea at night to sink the ships. When I told God, Nymph, that thou hast said, God said unto me, My angel shall inspire the Ihins to take all things out of the ships, and this night shall thy host fulfill the commandment of Jehovah. And so it came to pass that Ihins took all their goods out of the ships, not knowing they were inspired. And in the night I sent angels down, and they sank the ships. And in the morning the Ihins held had disappeared. And they said, the one voice of truth, I know I was inspired, for I would not rest till all the goods were taken out of the ships. Let us therefore build an altar unto the Lord and sing and dance, because he is with us. And when God Nymph saw that their souls were parties for good works and miracles, he stationed his Ashars, guardian angels, around about the altars, and sent other Ashars into the country. And they gathered fruit which was growing wild, and brought it to the Ihins, casting it on the altars of the Lord, even while this the people danced. Thus did I fulfill the work thou commandest of me, O Jehovih, whereupon I surrendered my commission to thy son Nymph, God of the heaven and earth. Chapter 7. Neph, God of earth, said, Behold, O Aph, son of Jehovih, by the power and magnificence of thy work, am I bewildered in thy presence. Who can come so near the Almighty? Who but Jehovih have obtained beyond the power of thy soul? Who hath wisdom like unto thee, save the great Creator? Thou hast stretched a line beyond the moon, and by thy spoken word crushed in the side of the great earth, as if it were nothing. Thou hast said, Arise, and a world moved by thy command. Yea, thou hast the love and esteem of millions of gods and goddesses, and thou camest amongst and against the winds of the earth, saying, Turn ye hither, or turn ye thither. And lo, the winds moved before the words of an obedient child to its father's voice. Thou callest down the fire of heaven, it cometh at thy bidding, and thou sayest, O Jehovah, put thy hand under the heavens of the earth, and straightway a light and floor wide as the earth, fly into the place of thy desire. Now behold, thou hast said, O Jehovah, I surrender my commission. I have finished that which thou commandest me to do. Therefore, O Aph, my soul had great sorrow, but because thou hast labored 100 days and cleaned up the whole earth and her heavens, as one might sweep the floor of a house, I bowed down in gratitude. Then Alph, son of Jehovah, said, O Jehovah, what have I done that thy son's love hath come to me? So far as I have become one with thee, O thou everlasting Creator, so thou showest me plainer and plainer that I am nothing, and yet thy son heapeth praise upon me, seeing I am but as a figure moved by thy hand. Shall man lose sight of the Almighty? Nevertheless, O Jehovah, who so speak and weak in love as thy servant, because thou hast quickened me in the wisdom and power, so hast thou made my love as a place that can never be supplied to the fill. How shall I find strength to leave this, thy son on the far off earth? Will I not glory in this love and great esteem, and yet know I not that I will repine, because I have not with me? Hear me, O Jehovah, for I will measure thy son with swiftness. Scarce 40,000 years rise up to Etheria, and yet thou madest him God of the heaven and earth. For thee 3,000 years struggled he in the battle against evil and darkness, and the broad heavens in the Etherian world looked on in sympathy and love and hope because of his tendency and wisdom of power. It was as one man fighting against a house on fire, and the place filled with helpless babes. And yet thy God ceased not, nor once rested and said, It is useless, but forever renewed the battle in new ways and stratagems. As a light showeth better in the dark, so did thy son Neph. O Jehovah, move the souls of even gods and goddesses in the exalted heavens. They then came thy voice, O Father, saying, Go thou, O Aph, my son, and deliver the earth. And behold, the congregation of gods and goddesses, so eager to fly to the assistance of thy honored son. And God Neph said, One favor, O Aph, son of Jehovah, I ask thee, which is thou shalt tarry 3 days and under the throne of God, for I will have it founded and ready, and my Lord shall have the honor of speaking to thee face to face. Aph, son of Jehovah, said, By thy permission, O Jehovah, I will tarry 3 days and 3 nights, with thy Son, God of heaven and earth, and I will honor his throne and speak face to face with his lords, that I may win their love. In 3 days' time, the kingdom of God was founded and situated in Atmospheria, near and over the land of Japheth, China. But the plateau extended with 2 wings, so as to embrace Shem and Ham, India and Egypt, and thither went the gods with their lords and attendants. Now there were with God Neph 2,000,000 spirits earthborn in the second resurrection, who had volunteered to serve another 200 years for the founding of the new kingdom of heaven, and they were well learned in the official capacity, knowing how to find plateau with factories, mansions, hospitals, nurseries, and all such places as are required in heaven for the newborn, so that God only had to say, "Do ye thus or so," and it was done and without error. And now from the host of Aph, son of Jehovih, they came before God 500,000 Ethiopian volunteers who desired to remain 200 years with God and his hosts. God said to them, "Behold, the earth has passed Terista, and it is no longer lawful for any but earthborn to hold the place of sub-gods and sub-lords and marshals, and since ye are from different stars, raised, and from different Ethiopian circuits, what shall I do that ye may be honored and also profitable to yourselves in development?" Gatavaya, chief spokesman for them, said, "We desire to be laborers only, for what is 200 years to us? We pray thee, appointed us not to the Ihans, for they are already advanced, but appoint us to the natives in the divisions of earth, especially to those who speak but little, who burrow in the ground. Neither do we desire a place in thy heaven, but we will abide with the mortals, and in first resurrection of those who were born in darkness." God said, "Thou shalt remain, and thy people with thee. For since thou hast volunteered to leave thy high estate and come and dwell for one Dan on the lowest of all plains, laboring for the blind and dumb, thou shalt be recompensated with the love of millions in time to come." Then God departed, and Aph, son of Jehovih, went with him, and they came into the midst of the kingdom of God, whereat they halt. And God said, "Here will I build my throne, inasmuch as sentience in the old times called his place Horde, so will I call my place Horde also, and on earth it shall be called the mountain of God, for it shall be my home." So God stretched forth his hand to Jehovih, saying, "Throne of thy throne, O Father," and there came down from the heavens above a great light, and it settled around about the midst of the place of God and Aph, Jehovih's son. Presently the light gathered up the atmospheric substance and made it shining and condensed, whereupon the attendants who do such matters brought and laid the throne of God, and thereafter fenced it around with pillars of fire, after the manner of Horde of the ancient days. And God ascended and sat on the throne, and Aph also sat on the right hand of God, and the 4 lords of the earth on the left hand, but the 5th Lord, Allylat, stood down at the foot. And he said, "Behold, the divisions of the earth that was mine is sunken beneath the sea. How then shall I sit on the throne of God?" God said, "Since thy labor had been taken from thee, thou art as permissible on the newly dead who have lost the earth, but have no place in heaven, since the Essenian serveth a time through a proxy of others. So shalt thou in that which I will bestow upon thee. Know then that thou shalt sit on my right hand, for thou shalt be my assistant and vice God during the time of my sojourn, and after that, whosoever thou wilt." Allylat said, "That hast honored me, O God, Jehovah's will be done." So God rose up, raising his hands, and said, "O thou all-like crown, thou thy son, vice God of Horde, for thy own glory forever." And as the light of Etheria descended into God's right hand, he shaped it into a crown and placed it on Allylat's head with the useful ceremony of such rank in heaven. Allylat came and sat on the right hand of God, and in the same time Aph, son of Jehovih, rose up, whereupon God and lords and all peoples whosoever sat down, for the place was as if Jehovih had appeared in person. Aph said, as a father is made to comprehend his own early life by looking at his infant son, so hast thou, O Jehovih, forever raised up before my eyes the images of time and conditions long past. In these thy lords thou hast called me back to the time and place when first thou and thy son crowned me a lord and vice god over one of the divisions of my native star. And my soul rose up to thee in fear and prayer, for I understood how unmindful men and angels are of the labor of gods and lords, and prone to the rate themselves as chiefs of all created things. But thy voice, O Jehovah, came to me, saying, Complain not, my son, against the self-conceited of men and angels, nor of the criticisms of my gods and lords, for such boasters do I provide trials, which they perceive not till they are encompassed within. Suffer them, therefore, within thy dominions to grow in their own glory, for I have sufficient labor for them, either on earth or in heaven. And I perceive thy wisdom, and I apply it through my angels. And when my people rose to the first resurrection and the second resurrection, behold, I knew where to place them, that they might prove themselves all in all. And thy light came upon me in my place, saying, As thou hast profited in the first lesson, so shalt thou comprehend the second, even up to the ethereal heavens. Nevertheless, O Father, thou sufferest all things to harass me and perplex my soul. And I was filled with fear and reverence because of the great responsibility thou gavest unto my keeping. So great were my tribulations and trials that I called out to thee in thy holy place to remember all other gods and lords in thy whole universe. And thou saidest, Hear thy words of thy Creator, thou, my God, my Son, for I created man to enter heaven as helpless as he entered earth life, and depended on those above him, that he might comprehend the unity between low and high, strong and weak, light and darkness. And I place him in my mills, wherein he should learn that, even as others grind for him, so shall he grind for those beneath him. For of what profit under the sun it is for my lords to come down from their liberty and grow in glory in my ethereal firmament, and become lords over the grovelers in the flesh, or over the Assyrians in darkness? Shall selfishness reign in heaven, and every one for him? Have I not provided it on earth that love of doing good works unto others is all that ensured a rich harvest of love in return? Because they stoop from their high estate in order to promote my children, which I created alive, are they not becoming the more one with me? Even so, all exhilaration in heaven, for as I stoop down to the dumb earth and water and quicken them, making men so have stooped lower than can anything of my universe. And they that do after my example, raising them up to make them have joy in life, are on the road to obtain to all my power and wisdom and love. Aph, son of Jehovah, said, I perceive it that my wisdom, O Father, and thy power and wisdom came upon me tenfold. Then I saw forever after to go to the lowest and darkest places. But lo, when I had grown in thy judgment, thou spakest again to me, saying, O Aph, son of my son, because thou hast found the key to unlock the doors to the highest heavens, behold, thou art too mighty for small labor. Come therefore with thy Creator, for I have a whole ethereal world at my command, and thy wisdom and power are required at hand. And I obeyed the call, O Jehovah, and then again after a season, thou callest me again and again, and madest my labors to extend into my ethereal worlds. But I would love to look back and glorify thee for my first lordom, and to treasure to the millions of loves I found in those days. And again, O Father, thou blessed me to meet many millions of them in this pruning of the red star of the earth. Now hast called me to speak on the throne of thy God of earth. Alas, the God has said, O Aph, son of Jehovah, come thou and honor my throne. Whereas, O Jehovah, I came most honored of men and gods, because I again opened my mouth before thee and in thy name. All glory be to thee, O Jehovah, now and forever. Then Aph, son of Jehovah, sat down, and God signaled to the marshals, who proclaimed freedom for 2 whole days. Whereupon the gods and goddesses of Aph staff filed past the throne, and after him came the hosts of God, and then the hosts of the lords, for they are all desired to pass near and look upon Aph, the receiveth the sign and signal of his blessing. And presently thereafter all the people joined in, and the Assyrians, and sang a song of glory unto Jehovih, the highest of all. And then it was finished. The multitude turned to recreation and social intercourse. Chapter 9. When the time came, God called his proper officers, and they claimed his presence. Thereupon the people came to order and said, even as it was before the submersion, so shall it be now. And ye shall fill the same places even as before, every one to the place provided. Nevertheless, from this time forth, all work in heaven and on earth shall be new. And if nothing had been, let my lords and their attendants and their ashars prepare for their departure, and from such other volunteers to have come into my kingdom, they shall receive as they desire, as to be signed to labor suited to them, whether it be with mortals or with spirits in the first resurrection. And to my marshals, messengers, and asifs, hear ye the word of your God, which is that ye proceed throughout Atmospheria, selecting and approaching all suitable places for the spirits of the dead, and that ye apportion builders and workmen, and erect factories and schools and hospitals and nurseries and other suitable places, adapted to receiving those of the first resurrection, as it is done in all Atmospherian heavens. And all who are thus received shall be called Essenes for the first 5 years, but after that they shall be called Essenes, signifying having separated from corporeal desire, being full residents of the S world. But those who will not become Essenes, being the spirits of Druk mortals and hard bound to the earth, shall be called Drujas, signifying wandering spirits of darkness and of evil. And those who engraft themselves on mortals shall be called Fetals, signifying sucking, and these names shall continue in heaven and on earth to the end of the world, wherein ye may perceive the full of leniency of thy gods and lords of old. Be ye circumspect in these times, for nevermore shall the rod of water chasten the living earth. When God thus completed all his commandments, and the people were ready to depart, the insurans and trumpeters sang and played a hymn adapted to the new heaven and new earth. And when this was finished, Aph, son of Jehovih, spake, saying, behold, the light of the high heaven opens. Thy son, Jehovah, longeth for a great labor. I go on journey farther than 10,000 suns. Batisi, thy daughter of Jehovih, and goddess of 1,000 worlds, have set apart a joined 2 corporeal stars in a far-off heaven, whereon 1,000 million shall be delivered into the spirit life in a single day. With her, by thy will and power of Jehovih, I go. But yet let not these thy gods and lords and all their hosts surmise I will forget one single soul of all that are here. And when the next Dan appeareth, behold, I will return to them to enjoy a portion of their sweet love. Aph is done. And now the chief descended and sat on the foot of the throne, and God, suffused with tears, came down and took his hand, saying, behold, he who is greatest maketh himself least at all. Arise, O Aph, son of Jehovih, and crowneth immortal God of the ark of No, son of the Almighty, arise and go thy way. So Aph rose up, and shaking his hands with the God and his lords, descended to the borders beyond the foot of the pillars of fire, and his host with him, being 10 million in number, where the proper persons had in readiness an ascending oven with wings, wherein they all entered. At a given signal at the oven, started upwards, but toward the east, and swift as a shooting star, it sped forth, and presently disappeared in the distance. And I'm going to leave it there because it continues for quite a while, and I want to make sure that we are getting bored. It is 105 with the heat index. It is 99 degrees here in New York City, and I have no air condition, so I need my water and a wing and a prayer. That's why it's all a moppy mess. Sending each and every one of you love and light. I hope you enjoyed this portion of Oahspe, the Book of Aph, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.